Okay, welcome back. We are going to go ahead and start working on the top half of this engine. And step number one is putting in the camshaft. So it talks about in the book here the various ways to kind of put it in. I've already put this in once, so I'm just going to go ahead and go ahead and start working on getting it put in. But before I do, I want to try to clean it up a little bit. You can see it right there. I'm just going to grab some dry cloth and pick it up here and just try to, wipe it down one last time. Make sure it's nice and clean. We've come so far. We've invested a lot of time and money and effort into this. Let's make sure things are clean before they go into the engine. All right. So we're going to oil this up nice and good, the cam. And let's set the book back here. And of course, here's the front of it. So I'm going to go ahead and lube this baby up. Okay, and we're going to first lube everything up. We are not going to be shy here. Let's see if you can see what I'm doing here. I am pouring oil on here. Big time. Okay. All right. So, it also said to oil the cam bearings as far as it would allow you to. And let's face it, I can't get the cam bearing. I can't lube any further other than just the first one. All right, so just real carefully, we're gonna turn it, set it in there. All right, so as you can see, it's resting on, the cam is resting on the first two cam bearings. So that'll allow us to do is go ahead and lube the rest of it up really good. All right. And it's practically impossible to see so you can use a extension to push up and provide some upward moving leverage. Okay, so it's tough. You just kind of have to feel your way through this. All right, so now it's sitting on, it's 3/5 of the way in. All right, so continue lubing. I could almost stick this in the other end to provide support. Okay, but we're just not quite there yet. So we're gonna go ahead and just give it our best shot to kind of get it in there. All right, now we're 4/5 of the way in there. See? Lubing it up some more. Now I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to stick it in the back. I can kind of see it in the back. And now I'm just going to slowly go ahead and work it in there. All right. And it's in. All right. Was it as elegant as I would have preferred? No. But it's in there. Okay, I mean, you can't really see where you're going. You know, I mean, given that the pistons are in there, you really can't see what you're doing. So it's not as elegant. It didn't go in as smooth as I was hoping. You know, you're going to hear a little rattling in there, and God only knows what's rattling. I hope the bearings aren't getting nicked up. But, you know, I mean, it's looped. So hopefully the lubrication helped smooth things in, and it's in. All right. So I'll be right back. I'm going to read the book and see where we go to now. It says here, install camshaft retainer plate. Lightly lube the built-in gasket at the back of the cam retainer plate. Okay. And I have got a brand new cam retainer plate. Okay. I didn't take any chances. Wanted to get a brand new one. So we're going to go ahead and lightly lube it. Let me just go ahead and put some oil on my finger here. And we're going to lube up the, just put a nice light coating of oil. Okay. Nothing crazy, just a nice light coating. All right. So lightly lube the built-in gasket at the back of the cam retainer plate. After wiping the corresponding surface on the front of the block, lubricate the thrust surface of the cam, its outside edge. Okay. Then set the cam retainer in place. All right. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and lightly lube the thrust bearing. Okay, this part right here. Okay. Lightly lube. Then we're going to wipe the rest of it. There's a lot of oil all over this engine. I mean, it's just no two ways about it. It's just when you're rebuilding an engine, you're lubing up so many parts that inevitably there's oil everywhere. All right, so one more time, lube up. I should have some brushes for this, but I don't. So there we go. All right. And then we're going to set this right over the top. For some reason, the old one. I guess the old one is pretty much the same. All right, this is the new one. Get our and these have the red stuff on them already. I'm just going to start them by hand. All right, it says to 11 foot-pounds. All right. let's go around one more time. All right, in case you're wondering, here's what I did. I don't have a torque screwdriver. So what I did was I have the Torx bit, okay, going into a 1/4 inch socket, okay, because that's what this is. This is 1/4 inch, all right, goes into here. So then, and then I've got that going to my click style torque wrench. So that's how I was able to calculate 11 foot-pounds on this. Okay. All right, what's next? It says we did number 26, install camshaft retainer plate, this guy. Okay, install crankshaft key and sprocket. Well, guess what? That is already installed. That's this right here. Okay, the keys the sprocket is installed, and the key is actually behind it here. Okay, this what you're seeing right here. Let me put my book down. What you see right here is a second key. Okay, there's two keys on here. There's one key that the sprocket sits on, and then there's a second key if your harmonic balancer requires a key. Okay, my harmonic balancer does not require a key. Okay, it just slides on. So that's why I don't need a Woodruff key in here. There's one already on here, the sprocket's already on here, so that step is done. All right, so step number 27 is done. All right, install camshaft, sprocket, and timing chain. Okay, so now we get to the timing chain. All right, so it says turn the crankshaft until the alignment mark on its sprocket is at the 12 o'clock position. All right, so you see where the 12 o'clock position is here. Let's go ahead and there's the 12 o'clock position. That little dimple right there, that's 12 o'clock. All right, so we're gonna turn it until it's at 12 o'clock. Boom, that's 12 o'clock. All right, 12 o'clock. Spin the camshaft by hand until the cam locating pin is facing to the right, roughly at 3 o'clock. Okay, making sure not to push the cam backward at all. All right, so we want this pin to be facing 3 o'clock. So I'm going to hold the back of the cam just to be sure. And then I'm going to turn this here to 3 o'clock. All right, so that's at 3 o'clock. I can push it forward because it ain't coming out. That's what this cam retainer plate's for. All right, so 3 o'clock. All right. This pin placement will help get the cam sprocket locating mark roughly where it needs to be. Lubricate the thrust surface at the back of the cam sprocket and soak the timing chain in oil. Okay. So here's so what I'm gonna do is I have to lubricate this thrust portion of the sprocket, and I'm gonna take the timing chain off and lube it up in some oil. Okay, I'm gonna soak it in some oil for a minute or two. So I'm not gonna bore you with that process. I'm gonna pause the camera and I'll be right back after I get all that done. Okay, just thought I'd show you. I got a little little disposable little container here. Probably put too much oil. Probably put too more oil than I really needed to in here. And I've got the timing chain soaking in this. So I'm going to let that soak for another minute or so. And then I'm going to take that oil, dip my finger in it here. And I'm going to go ahead and lube up the thrust portion of the sprocket. All right. And again, let's not be chintzy with this. Let's get it on here good. All right. Now, one thing that, let me just go ahead and read the whole thing. Okay. It says, lubricate the thrust surface at the back of the cam sprocket. Soak the timing chain in oil. Once this is done, take your cam sprocket and hang your timing chain on it. Reach behind the engine with one hand to hold the cam from moving backward. Okay. Put the cam sprocket in place while simultaneously wrapping the timing chain around the crank sprocket. You may have to take the cam sprocket and chain off and on and off the engine a few times until you get the marks until you get the marks on the cam and crank to line up vertically. They should be at 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock respectively. Okay. Start the cam bolts by hand. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. Now, we'll get to that in a minute. It says here, be sure to use the correct sprocket markings determined during pre-assembly if an aftermarket adjustable timing set. We don't have to worry about that. Engines equipped with VVT have the cam phaser mounted to the front of the cam sprocket. The assembly is secured to the camshaft by a solenoid. We don't have to worry about that. Actually, we deleted VVT. 3. The timing chain tensioner on engines equipped may need to be installed before the chain and sprocket. In this case, the tensioner will need to be temporarily deactivated using a pin or similar instrument while the chain and sprocket are put into place. All right. Engines equipped with a timing chain dampener should install it at this time, torquing it to 18 foot-pounds. All right, so we have a tensioner, and we're going to go ahead and put that on now. What am I forgetting to do? Forgetting to wipe it down. Everything gets wiped down. When you're this close, you see the light at the end of the tunnel, you get excited and you just want to get done. But we can't forget to do the basic stuff here. Okay, wipe it down. All right. So let's go ahead and put that on. This. Now, one thing is the book didn't give torque specs for this dampener. So I'm gonna, bolts that have similar, well, that's no good. If it falls on the floor, it gets wiped down. All right. I'm just gonna set it up there for now. Similar bolts, as I was saying, have on the engine have torque specs around 18 pounds, and the timing chain dampener, the bow tie one, has 18 pounds as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this to 18 pounds. Now, this guy goes on here, and there is a pin to hold this tensioner. Let me tilt the camera down a little bit more. There's a pin that goes in here. It goes in this through here, into this hole, and through here, and that's supposed to help allow the chain to go on a little bit easier. Now, as I recall from the pre-assembly, I think what I did was actually, let me go ahead and loosen this back up, because I think what I did was, to get the chain to go on a little easier, I just loosened that. So I know you're thinking, well, you just torqued it. Well, I'm gonna untorque it now. Let's see here. Where did I put that? Oh, here it goes. And you'll see what I mean. You'll see what I mean why I'm doing this in a minute. It'll become clear, maybe. All right. So we've got this at 3 o'clock. We've got this at 12 o'clock, roughly. All right. And we've got the timing sprocket, right? And you'll see there's a little hole right there. That goes on this right there. All right. And then that being the case, that'll put this marking at 6 o'clock, which should line up with that. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and get the timing chain out of its bath. All right. All right. So we are going to go ahead and hang this over it. And I am creating a mess on the floor. Golly. Oh boy. All right. So we're going to try to just put this bit down here. All right, it's become apparent that I am going to have to push this pin back. All right, so I need to find a place to set this down, because it is just dripping oil like there's no tomorrow. Okay, this is the pin that came with the tensioner. All right, the way this works is you push on here really, really, really hard. Okay, there it goes. See what I did there? See what I did there? I pushed this in, okay, and then put the pin in the holes, and that keeps it open. All right, so now let's give this another try. Let's go ahead and loop it around the crank sprocket first. Let's see if that does us any well. Oh, look at that. There you have it. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so the problem here is, look at that, it's not in the right spot, because the crank dimple is at 12 o'clock, but the cam sprocket is at like 5:30, so we gotta take it off. It is not lined up properly. Okay, and we need to take it probably one set of teeth over. Okay. Still not quite. It's still not quite there. It needs to go one more. All right. So I'm going to push the cam forward, okay? And then I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to take this chain and go one more time around. All right. Ah, look at that. That's what we're aiming for. That's what we're aiming for. All right. That's what we are aiming for. All right. I think we have it. I think we've got it. Let me get a rag here, wet my hands. All right. So, one thing I forgot to do. Big mistake. Well, not huge. I mean, it's nothing that a little bit of grease cleaner can't handle. But I forgot to put a rag down on the floor underneath where I'm working. So, dadgummit, look at all this oil on the ground, on the concrete. Okay, so I've got a mess. So consider that a newbie mistake. Forgot to put some rags and towels down underneath. Okay, so otherwise, looks like I'm going to be, once this project is done, cleaning up my garage floor. Anyway, so here's the deal. All right. The reason it took us a while was because, number one, this has to be lined up with that. Okay. And this needs to be pointing to 12 o'clock, and this needs to be pointing to 6 o'clock, which it is now. Okay. So every time in order to get that to line up, I had to remove the whole sprocket. And basically I moved the chain one tooth at a time until these two became lined up. Okay. I took the sprocket off. Okay. But before I turned the sprocket, the cam sprocket, I simply moved the chain one tooth down. And then, of course, naturally, the sprocket had to follow. Okay, so that's how I proceeded with that. And now I've got it lined up, so now I'm ready to bolt everything in. Okay, so my battery died when we were last filming. So anyway, I went and put my phone on the charger because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm moving away from using the GoPro. That thing, I don't know what's wrong with it, but anyway, the video's not that great. So my phone died. So while my phone was charging, I went ahead and did a few things. So not much, but I went ahead and I torqued this down and these down, the tensioners. I torqued the tensioners down 20 pounds. That was where what I estimated that to be. Matches what some of these other bolts are. It's similar. I went ahead and installed the bolts that attach the cam sprocket to the cam. So the cam is bolted in to the sprocket, and that's all fixed. Torqued these to 25. The book says anywhere from 18 to 26 pounds. So I went on the upper end. I torqued these to 25 pounds. And then I removed the pin. Remember we put the pin in here? I removed that pin so that there's tension on this chain. This chain ain't going anywhere. It ain't moving. All right. So where does that leave us? That leaves us, here's the book. And the book says, let's see, what were we just doing? We were just doing install cam, shaft, sprocket, and timing chain. I've done that. The next thing we need to do is install the oil pump. All right. So this is actually a really, really easy job. I got a brand new Melling oil pump, okay, in the box here. Basically it says, you know, to simply wipe the back of the surface and wipe the block where it mates, and then just put it in there and put the 4 bolts and you're done. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and work on that now, and I'm going to clean those surfaces, and then I'll turn the camera. Okay, so I've got my oil pump here, and I'm just basically gonna wipe this surface, not using any kind of cleaner or anything, just making sure it's clean. And then there's really not too many surfaces here on the block to wipe. I'm just gonna clean this up here a little bit. All right, and you'll notice on the inside there's these grooves. You see those grooves there? Those grooves line up with these grooves here in the crank. All right. Oh, that makes a little more sense, does it not? All right. That actually makes a lot more sense. Well, it's interesting in that there is no seal where oil is pumped into the block. Let me see if I can. I find it interesting that right behind here, there's an oil galley. See that? See that hole right there? Oh, it's so hard to get a camera to go in there. But right in here, gosh, it's nearly impossible to see. Ah, there he is. Now you can see it. Right there in the center of the image. Okay, that pumps, that's where oil gets pumped through the block. And the mating surface here, basically right there, this thing right here, there's no gasket or anything on there. That surprises me. It really surprises me. I would have thought there would have been need to have some kind of seal. Interesting. All right, so basically, since there's no seal, I want to make sure this is nice and clean. And there's nothing there to stop it from leaking. I'll take a look at the book just to make sure, but I'm going to go ahead and put this on. That is really fascinating. All right. So here are the bolts. Millimeter? No, 10 millimeter. See what the torque setting is. All right, it's interesting to note that the book actually specifically said not to use any kind of like sealant or gaskets in that oil port. That really surprises me, I have to admit. I don't know what to think. All right, so I got to torque these to 18. All right, 18. All right, here's the oil pump. We're moving right along here. Now it says to flip the engine because I think at this point we're going to start working on the windage tray. All right, so let's flip this baby around. All right, so we got the engine flipped over, and now we're gonna work on, the book says now to work on the oil deflector tray. Okay, now the book says it may need some modifications, okay, because of this is a stroker engine. Okay, so this crank is larger than stock. Everything here is larger than stock. I made it a 4-inch stroker. Okay, so the problem is that this windage oil tray might basically block, or as the crank's turning, it may get, you know, if I put it on as is, make it bumped, so to speak, by moving parts here. Okay, now the first thing the book says to do is go ahead and just put it on there. Is to just lay it on there. Okay, don't bolt it down, just lay it on there, and then turn the engine over. Okay, however, before I do that, this is one of the few parts that I am going to try to use from the old engine. Okay, having said that, it is very dirty. There is grime and grease and gunk and junk, and it's a mess. Okay, I no way, no how want to put that on there the way, in the condition it is right now. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I think I'm just gonna go ahead and call it a night. It's after 10:30 p.m. local, my time. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it a day. We got a lot done today. In one day, I got the short block completed. I got finished installing the pistons. I torqued down the connecting rods. What else did we do here? We installed a crank position sensor. We took care of that. We got this oil or water plug installed. We put the cam in. Remember, the engine's upside down here. But we put the cam in. We put the timing sprocket. We put the oil pump on. We're making some good progress here. And man, I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I'm excited. This is coming together. So far, so good. This windage tray is going to be kind of a thorn in my side, because if I put it on here and it's getting bumped by the fact that this is all stroker components, I've got two options. Either I have to kind of hammer and reform the tray so that it doesn't get bumped, or I just have to go order a new one that is a taller one. They make taller windage trays for stroker type cranks and components. Now, because I've spent so much on other parts, I decided, well, let's just first try to use the old one and see if we can get away with that before we just go and buy a new one, tall one. That would have been the easy way out. I figured, let's see if we could save, $150 and try to use the old tray. There's nothing wrong with it other than it just needs cleaned up. And I'm hoping that can work. I'm hoping that there's very little interference, or I'm hoping I can, use a hammer and pound out the spots that hit. Because if I have to order a new one, a tall one, basically I'm stopped right here for a couple days until it arrives. And golly knows how many times that's happened to me already. So I'm trying to avoid that. And because if I end up having to buy another one, then that's going to set me back, who knows, 4 or 5 days maybe. So anyway, that's where we're at. exciting times. As always, thanks for joining. Be sure to subscribe, be sure to like, hit the bell button there so you can get notified whenever I post a new video. I know you're excited as much as I am to see how this Suburban's going to run once I get it put in. So thanks for going along with me for this ride. Appreciate it.